Hello, everybody. It's really, really wonderful to see all of you out here. There are some close friends and some new faces that I haven't met before. It's really exciting for me that you all will want to take interest in learning more about the Suzuki Orff Foundation and the Auxiliary Council and potentially being involved. It's something that's very dear to my heart. There are lots of problems in I juggle. There are lots of problems in our society today that we're all very aware of, and a lot in education, and specifically in Chicago, there's fundamentals that are really missing. I was having a conversation with somebody this morning, waiting for the plane to come back to Chicago from New York, and I was like kind of in a daze, but having this really interesting, deep conversation with a yoga instructor, and something came to mind. If you were to try to raise a horse, let's say, and you kept the horse in a studio apartment in the city and let it out once a day to walk and put it back in the apartment and then had it live its life, it'd be ridiculous. It wouldn't survive. That's what we're doing to ourselves and humans in how we educate ourselves or how we educate our children, and how we raise people. And we're doing it more and more as we cut out music programs and we cut out arts, and even gym funding is being cut now. So the thing that really touches my heart about the Suzuki Orff Foundation is that it's bringing back some of these fundamental things to school children in Chicago that are transformative. It can make the difference between somebody having a great life or between somebody having an undeveloped and bad life, or somebody having a great life. So I really thank you all for taking interest in this, and I'm going to give the floor to Joe in just a second, but I want to say mainly the reason I'm here is not to be a leader in the organization. I just want to be a catalyst. I want somebody in this room right now to be a leader, to be the leader for the Auxiliary Council, and then the rest of the people in this room, if you choose to take other various leadership roles, so we can help get more funding for the organization, help spread the organization, help spread awareness of the need for the organization around Chicago, and then eventually around other parts of the country, and expand it as far and wide as we can, because there are a lot of people out there who really need help us with this. So with that, I thank you for coming, and I'll give the floor to Joe to give you more information.
So that's my name badge that's falling off. Says I'm Joe Johnson. I'm a member of the Suzuki Orff's main board of directors. We also have a couple of more board members here, Peggy Weiss, who also founded our school. We also have Susan Walsh, who's a board member with us, and then Troy Anderson, who's our executive director. And I'm going to have Troy talk a little bit later about the school itself and our mission and our programs that we have. But kind of building upon what Greg said, you know, we have really a problem here in Chicago with education. I think it's a problem we have all across the country. The way I came to the school was actually Amy Zagroba, who used to be on our board, introduced me to the school. And I worked at Groupon over 600 West Chicago, and I lived over at Damon Superior, and I drive down Chicago Avenue every day back and forth to work. And I'd see the school here, and I'd see the logo outside, and I always wondered, what is this school? You know, what kind of music school is there in the city that's a private music school? Because I always assumed kids got music in public school. Why would you need, you know, do they do music lessons? What kind of place is it? So one day, Amy was talking to me, and she kind of introduced it to me, and I got a little bit more engaged, a little more interested, and I started to look a little bit more as to, you know, what's going on with education and what's going on with the schools here in Chicago. Now, I grew up in the suburbs, and I grew up in a suburb called Bartlett. Bartlett is part of the Unified District of Elgin U46, which is the only school district in the state of Illinois to consistently rank lower than the CPS in terms of test scores and student retention. That takes a lot of work. We've been competing with each other for the past 30 years as a race to the bottom between the two districts. So that kind of, you know, was a catalyst towards wanting to be a little bit more involved with the school and get to know that people would have more opportunities for education. wanted to give a little brief agenda. We have a few things we wanted to go through. We talked just now a little bit about the problem, which is the problems we're having with the CPS. We want to get a little bit more about what's the solution to those problems, or at least what is our solution to that problem. One thing that was really nice, the people at McDonald's, who have been big sponsors and big supporters of the school, followed people around for what, Peggy, like 3 weeks. We've got dozens of hours of video, but they were nice enough to put it together into a clip for us on a 6-minute video going over the school and our programs and things like that. So I'm going to show that to you too today. So our school, we've got a very simple, concise mission, very simple and concise impact that we have on the community. Our biggest goal, our biggest reason we exist is to educate children. And we typically target the children who don't have any other option. One statistic that gets thrown a lot is the city of Chicago Public Schools, as of 2009, had a 47% graduation rate by the age of 19. That means 47% of our kids will actually graduate and get a GED or graduate from the CPS by the age of 19. So it means less than 1 kid out of every 2 kids will graduate. First time I heard that number, I had to go check it. I Googled it, spent hours looking for it. I could not believe that a number would be that bad, and the feds aren't coming in and shutting us down and taking us over. I mean, that's just ridiculous, but it's true. And if you take control of that number for just the kids who are in the low-income communities, the at-risk kids who do not have, the resources that some of the richer kids do, that number drops into the low 30s. So that's literally 3 out of every 10 kids graduate. That's it. We're sending 7 kids to prison. We're sending 7 kids to a dead-end job where they have no chance of ever getting out of their community and having more success in their life. And that's just unacceptable to me. So that's what we do, and that's why we exist. I'm going to show you the video now, which has a little bit more information about that, so you can see kind of what we do.
I have a xylophone in front of me, and this is one of the instruments that the children first learn to keep a steady beat on just by saying tick, tock, tick, tock, tick, tock, tick, tock. And that's where I start.
For more than 30 years, the Suzuki Orff School of Music has been committed to giving children an exceptional music education and the tools that help them develop to their greatest potential, the keys for life.
I really am a huge believer that it's not just music for the sake of music, it's music for the sake of really developing yourself as a person.
The Baby Steps program here at Suzuki Orff starts at 6 months old. They started, learning beat when they would play a song and learn how to keep beat.
A lot of what the Suzuki method does is teach life lessons about work ethic, practicing, how to solve problems, and they do it at such a young age that it's not such a challenge that might be to try to teach those things to a teenager or an older child. When you learn those things at 3, they just become a part of your blood.
I think that Suzuki Orff really helped my children to go on further in life and live higher education, just by being, first of all, being committed and being disciplined. I think that the knowledge they had of just learning to read the music, learning to count the music, learning to get along with the student that's here, learning to be committed, learning not to give up and just go on and know that they can succeed. And that's what they got here at Suzuki Orff. And what this does is build confidence. And once you have confidence that you can do something, you can go on to achieve much more than you ever thought you could.
The Clap Sing and Read program is really a passion of mine. I think the program is so solid in the way it's put together. It teaches the kids not only the parts of the words and to read, it teaches them all of the skills that they would need as readers.
Oh, this has changed our life completely. Yeah, it's changed our life. It's made me more outgoing. I mean, if anybody asks us to play, he'll just get up and play. Before he started, he would not do that. I mean, he would start crying, but he would panic.
One of the ESL or bilingual students that I had, he was so shy. The whole first year I had him, he probably said maybe 10 sentences when I forced him to. By the second year, speaking in full sentences.
I think students learn, in addition to just learning music, it affects their brain development, it helps their confidence, their ability to present themselves. I think it prepares students for all kinds of things in life.
I believe the music opens up a part of the brain.
Kind of all of those skills that you need to be successful, you learn being a music student.
One of the things that's at the core of everything we do here on site and in our in-school programs is Dr. Suzuki's concept of the Suzuki Triangle. And that is a triangle with the child, the parent, and the teacher, all equal, all working together, all supporting each other, and all making learning a joyful, fulfilling experience.
The parents' involvement is very important because when they leave this building, we only have them for an hour and a half. What's going on the rest of the week? The parent is so important. They teach and reinforce what it is that we teach in our studios and in our classrooms throughout the week. 15, 16, 17, I don't remember anymore. Years, every class I was here with him.
In the late 70s, the Chicago Board of Education eliminated music from the curriculum of Chicago public elementary schools. With our signature literacy through music program called Clap, Sing, Read, Suzuki Orff delivers outstanding music education directly to elementary school classrooms.
We're at a point in our evolution where I think it's crucial to develop what we do. You know, additionally, in this day and age, we see more families who are in need of financial assistance, and we provide as much as we can with what our budget will allow, but to be able to provide more families access to a music education, because you know they value it and they really want it for their kids, but sometimes they just can't afford it. So to be able to provide more financial aid to families who want to have access to our programs here, I think would be essential.
It blesses people and it moves people. You know, music is just so effective and captivating, and you know, it impacts you. And just to give a child the opportunity to do something so great and grand, just from being committed, it was wonderful.
The Suzuki Orff experience has been life-changing for our family.
I invite anyone who wants to come out and spend 45 minutes with us in a classroom to see what's occurring and to actually see the impact that is being made. I promise that the rest of your day will glow as a result.
The Suzuki Orff School of Music, making a difference by giving children the keys for life.
Oh no, hold it. Oh no, hold it. Oh no, hold it. And rest. I have a xylophone in front of me.
Wanted to play again, it was so good. So that was a little bit about the school, so let's go into a little bit about the problem that we have here in Chicago. When we take a look at ourselves nationally, and even beyond this, we'll talk a little bit about internationally. But nationally, inside the city of Chicago, we're lagging behind pretty much every other major city in the United States except for Detroit. And again, we're racing them to the bottom very, very closely. When you take a look at what we do to our children, we don't have any funding for music education. I think Greg, you mentioned we're taking physical education out of our schools too. So through these types of programs that this Suzuki Orff School does, we actually go into the classrooms and we work with them. On the back end, there's a lot of support structure, but Troy will go over a little bit more. But you can see, we're not really doing too much. If you take a look at the statistics, about 25% of the neighborhood schools get full funding for a full-time music or arts education teacher. And that's not even just music, that's music and arts. Less than half receive even partial funding for a music or arts teacher inside of the Chicago public schools. And that's where we step into the problem. Internationally, and this is why I like PowerPoint, I hate PowerPoint, but I can do cool things like this. The United States, as of 2011, ranks last in reading, almost last in math, and below 21 other OECD countries in science. So that means the entire developed world, the world that we're the only superpower left inside of, we're dead last. And that's because of issues like this. So we'll go over a little bit more of the solution, and for that I'm going to introduce Troy, who's our executive director here at the school. You came
Right. I think I need your help with power. As you know, my name is Troy Anderson. I'm the executive director here. I've been here for a year and a half. I guess, you know, some of the things that come to mind when I hear Greg talk and Joe talk is why music, right? And we are firm believers here at Suzuki Orff that music can help shape a person. It's not just about music for the sake of music, which is definitely important. I was just talking to Peggy about that earlier. But, you know, it can really help your critical thinking skills. It can help your, you develop your preparation skills. And for me, I know that music was key in helping me develop my standards for my work. And so there's so much that goes into music that can just help you develop yourself as a person over time. And then, of course, there's the music piece, too, the true enjoyment and fulfillment that we get from music, how it helps us empathize with other people and just different things that it brings that not any other language can bring to us. So, obviously, we're big believers in music, but I think then it comes to the next step, why Suzuki Orff, and what is so unique about Suzuki Orff. I've been working in community music education now for 12 years, and I was at a couple other schools before I came to Suzuki Orff, and the reason I came to Suzuki Orff is because I was sold on the way that Suzuki Orff does it. So I want to tell you just a little bit about that. We have two types of programs that we employ. One set of programs we bring into the Chicago Public Schools, or schools to classrooms. And we have a variety of different programs that actually we do that with, but all are integrated with academics in one way. We have a program called Clap, Sing, and Read, where we integrate early literacy skills with musical skills. And kids, as a result, will make a better connection between both music and literacy as a result. So we go into schools, basically pre-K all the way through grade 6 or grade 7, to provide music programs to the schools. The other side of the programming fence is what happens here in this facility. And it's a little bit more intensive in this facility. We have smaller class sizes. We're able to get more intimate with the kids and spend more time really focused on the quality music education. When they come here, once they start to learn an instrument, they take a private lesson. They also take a group class to work on those skills together via the Suzuki method. And then we have a musicianship class, which is our Orff program. And our Orff is really a program where they're learning the language of music without their instrument in their hand. So it's a very well-rounded program. We are huge believers of the parent involvement piece here, and you heard Peggy on the video talk a little bit about the triangle between parent, child, and teacher, and that is so essential when a young child is learning music. I was having a discussion with one of our teachers this morning about my daughter, who's 8, and how essential it is for me to sit in her lessons, and if I didn't, there's no way we would be having the practice sessions that we're having at home without that knowledge. So there's a few key factors that make Suzuki Orff really unique, and I'm happy to talk a little bit more about those at another day and time. But we definitely feel like we have a very solid recipe, and a recipe that we're very proud of. So I want to tell you a little bit about where we're at as an organization, too. Over the last year and a half, we have really elevated our standards. We've looked across the board at standards for our kids, standards for our staff, standards for our teachers, and we have elevated those across the board. We have really been focused on creating a learning environment here, not only for our kids, but for our teachers and for our staff as well. We're focusing more money in our budget on helping develop our staff and our teachers. And on top of that, we took a real close look at how we're servicing our families and our schools, and really elevated our standards there. So our new core values here are learning, service, and standards, and we are trying to live those out every day in our daily lives here at the organization. And so it's a really exciting time for us. We've got a bunch of people on our staff and our faculty right now that are going above and beyond to make this organization extraordinary. And those are our goals every day. I share with Peggy that oftentimes we're up late at night, 11 o'clock at night, going back and forth with, with ideas via email. And just, we have a bunch of people that are creating this culture of like, we don't want to be the average music school. We want to be the extraordinary music school that really has a significant impact on lives. And there's a few people in this room today that I know we've had a significant impact on. Maybe they can talk to you about that as well. I think about half the cast from the videos actually in the room today. We're working as an organization to elevate ourselves in every possible way, and that's happening every single day here. The next 3 to 5 years are really crucial for us along our path. We are trying to create greater awareness of our programs. You know, we have some extraordinary programs here, as you heard me talk about. But we need to create greater awareness of those programs and why, right? Why Suzuki Orff? A lot of times people hear Suzuki Orff as a question, what is that? Or it sounds very regimented or whatnot. And we can talk about why and what that method is all about and why that we believe that that recipe is a better recipe than the other music school down the street. But we are really working hard to create greater awareness. Another thing that we're trying to do is deepen our roots and our relationships in the community. We have been working on that already, but we could use some help from people like yourselves to help deepen those relationships and introduce us to more people in the community and just help community relations as a whole. Thirdly, we are trying to develop a little bit more in corporate America, get more corporate funding. A lot of corporations over the past 5 or 6 years have been instrumental, no pun intended, in helping organizations like this stay afloat during the tough times. And we're really focused on putting ourselves a little bit more in corporate America, and then of course evolving as an organization too. As any organization grows and gets bigger and does things differently, our organizational capacity has to build as well. And then lastly, one of the things that we just are really doing lately is to develop our data systems and gather data to help us make decisions in the future. And so it's a brand new thing for us. We're becoming kind of data freaks around here around how many students we retain and how many people from the community are using our services and all that kind of stuff. But that's an area where we can use some expertise and help too. So I thank you all for coming today. We're very happy to have you here, and love to share. I can talk forever about the school. I got Greg and Greg telling me that I'm taking up too much time. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Joe, I think, again. But if you have any questions about the school, about what we do, about why we're unique, about what we're focused on in the next year, please let me know, and I'll be happy to share. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you, Troy. So let's take over the part about community outreach visits, what Troy went over. And that's kind of, what brought me into the school as well, was my interest in these programs we do in the Chicago Public Schools, because it seems to be like the first line of defense, so to speak, against illiteracy in Chicago, is going into the school. We equip the teacher with the tools they need to continue using these lessons day to day. So we teach reading, we give the kids 6 chapter books a year that they get to keep after the program is done. But now the teacher, through continuing education, can use the same principles in mathematics, and science, and history, and continue to teach the students in the exact same way, which I thought was really cool. Enough of my ramblings. So into the auxiliary board. Now we had an auxiliary board. Greg was on our auxiliary board. We did a lot of fun stuff with the auxiliary board. It was right around the time that I joined. We had the event at Kooky Suzuki, which was a comedy club event. It was really a lot of fun. It was my first Suzuki Orff event that I ever went to. It was at Zany's. They had a couple of comedians come. Zany's let us keep all the door proceeds. They just had to keep all the drinks. So it worked out really well. I think we raised like $5 grand.
It was a really fun event. We sold out and hilarious comedians.
What was that?
What was it?
They did it twice. You did it 2 years.
Yeah, the first one I wasn't in the school yet. The second one I joined the board in 2011, 2010. So it had to be fall of like 2010.
Yeah.
But it was my first experience in school, and I had 2,500 works out to pretty much exactly what we need to do 2 Suzuki classes, or 25 sing and read classes inside the Chicago Public Schools for a full year or semester. 2,500 is a full year. Yep. So full year, 2 classes for a full year inside the CPS cover just off of that, which is a lot of funding for us. So it's very nice. The auxiliary board kind of exists as that level just below the primary board, where we do a lot more of the fun events. We do a lot more individual event planning. We try to build awareness in the community. With it being a group of more young professionals, we don't necessarily raise as much money as the main board, obviously, but we do a lot more, instead of fundraising, I'll call it awareness raising opportunities. So we'll go out and do things to promote the school and the community through either free or very low cost events. Amy had a few good ideas, like a fun run here at the school. We could do a raffle. We do have the street fair every year that we have here at the school as an open house. So the auxiliary board provides planning and resources for Troy, so he doesn't have to take time away from running the school to plan those types of events and staff it with volunteers and those sorts of things. But in the meantime, sort of gives the people on the auxiliary board three things. And if I can remember what those three things are that I told Peggy, then I will be a genius. The first one is, you know, not that it's a huge hard skill you need in life, but there is a lot of experience you gain that will help you later on in life through event planning, dealing with a lot of people, being out there, being more self-promotional or at least school promotional. Hard to believe, as gregarious as I am, that I'm actually very introverted and very quiet, and things like this I think have helped me a lot to come out of my shell. The second one is sort of what you get out of it is more of a warm and fuzzy feeling from giving back to the community. There's a lot of that you get from working with the kids, especially when you see them. I mean, you can hear them playing right now. They're preparing for a recital later today. That was my first visit to the school, was the day of the recital. And I had Cindy and I can't remember who else was here, but and Katja showed me around the school my first time I was here. And that was a lot of fun. You know, we went down, we saw a private lesson. We went over there were some kids doing the xylophones on the floor, learning how to read and read the music as they worked. You know, getting to see the kids actually impacted by the school. Third one, I don't remember what the third one is. I guess I'm not a genius. But it's you know, just sort of the life experiences, and it's something you can, for those that maybe not are motivated by giving back, but it is something you can put on a resume too, and say, this is an organization that I give back to, this is something I participate in, and something to, you know, show people, hey, I actually care about something and I do give back to the community.
It's a great start.
The third one was that you get to know a lot of interesting people and
The social aspect, that's right. So fourth thing.
Interesting,
So the fourth thing is that you can get to meet interesting people and have a lot of fun while you do it. So with that in mind, there are some next steps. You know, obviously, check out the website. We've got a lot of information about our programs up there. Troy's actually provided some handouts about the school on the table, so you can get some more information about it. If you want to, you know, this is basically the end. If you want to stick around, we've got some board members here, some people who are involved in the school. If you want to ask some questions and get to know us a little bit better, we're more than happy to stay. I don't have anything going on today. We do have a recital at 2:30 here at the school. More than welcome to stay for that as well if you want. It's actually in the big room. You can get to see the kids actually perform. Mainly it's just their parents in there, so it'd be nice to give them someone else to cheer them on when they're finished. And the ghost door pops open again.
the grape did it.
Exactly. And then the last one is, you know, we've got a sign-up sheet. If you want to leave your information, once we start to plan like our first event and things like that, we'll contact you and let you know, and you know, we'll invite you to come join with us.
I'd actually like to propose that you can kind of consider this the formal end. This is like you have the information about it, but let's all chat. Like, let's pull the chairs. Let's get some cheese and wine and cookies and stuff and hang out for a little bit. Like, pull the chairs into a circle and meet each other.
That works.
Yeah.
Good idea.